All right. It is in Los Angeles. It's Sunday, September the 13th, and I'm back for chapter 2 of the John Neil Bishop life story. Dad, it's only been a month, but you look quite a lot older from the last time I saw you a month ago. Has anything happened? Have you had a birthday or anything?
Oh, something like that, yeah. Somebody congratulated me on having my 21st birthday.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so let me take my socks and shoes off and work out. So that means you are now proudly 84 years old, correct?
Correct, yes, I've turned that corner.
Yep. Yeah, well done. A very happy birthday from all of us, and so that's great. Now, at my tender young age, I get things wrong all the time and I can't remember any details. So from chapter 1, is there anything that you would like to correct or add a little more texture? Anything we should cover there?
One thing in particular, when we're talking about the influence of Tarac and the involvement of the Bishop family in it, I made a statement that said that my father, grandpa, your grandpa, wasn't on the board, but he in fact was on the board. What I meant to say is he wasn't ever chairman, because Alf Allen, who was chairman for the first 50 years, outlived 2 of my antecedents, and so Dad didn't have a shot at chairmanship, and I came in after he died, and then I became chairman when Alf retired. So
and how many years were you chairman of Tarac, Dad?
16, I think.
Oh, okay. All right, great.
Alf Allen did 1930 to 1980, and I did 1980 to 2016 or something like that.
Fantastic. And who's the current chairman of Tarac?
Well, Andrew now is.
Okay.
And in between had been Fraser Ainsworth for about 10 years.
Yeah. So
anyway,
Andrew,
Tarac is a wonderful company and it's going great guns.
Fantastic. Yeah. And Andrew, who of course is your oldest son and my oldest brother, has been the chairman since November last year. Is that about right?
Yeah, about that. When he retired as full-time from the Australian Railways senior position, he was then able to accept the Tarac chairmanship.
So that came out pretty recently. Okay. So in chapter 1, we covered 1936 to 1957, but I think we want to go over a couple of things that happened around 1953. So just to go back to chapter 1 a little bit, let's fill in a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, well, what I had in mind there was that in 1953, that was the year I did my leaving honours at school.
Yeah.
Fortunately, scholarships for university were decided on the 1952 year result, which is when I'd been youth travelling, but I did manage to get the Commonwealth Scholarship in 1952. So 53 was a fairly fun year, I have to say. I remember going to a jamboree in Sydney as part of that.
So that's a scout. That's with Boy Scouts, correct?
Yeah, Boy Scouts. Yeah, over in Sydney.
Yeah.
And I completed my leaving honours satisfactorily.
Yeah.
But when the following year, or in early '54, I went up to work on a sheep station up at Mingary.
Okay, where's that?
After I left school, up towards Broken Hill, in the middle of the middle of the city, middle of the country. But I worked there for a few months before university started.
Right. And what did you do at Mingary, Dad?
Oh, just general rouseabout.
Right.
Very nice family running the place, and I was just a lackey.
Right. And did they have horses, motorbikes?
All sheep, occasional motorbike and a bit of horse riding, but it was mainly rounding up sheep and related to the shearing and all sorts of things.
Well, I know about that. I did that too.
Yeah.
In Kojana. But anyway, that's another story.
That was in early '54. Yeah. And then in '55, I did my national service up at Woodside.
Yeah.
We had a compulsory 6 months of national service.
Right.
But if you're a university student, you could split it into 2 bites.
Yeah.
And the first bite was for 3 months in 1955.
Yeah.
And then the second bite, I was able to spread over the next 2 or 3 years with, weekend parades and that sort of thing.
And
we
Dad,
had a bit of fun in national service. I remember one thing, David Evans had a big birthday while we were up in the camp, and he invited the company commander and the platoon commander to come to the party as his guests. It was a black tie dinner and dance up at the Burnside Town Hall. And we had got leave passes until midnight.
Yeah.
And when the show ended at about 12:30, and we were still a couple of hours away from camp, we went back to Merv Evans' house, had a couple of coffees or something, and put Lieutenant Commander Strang, who'd passed out having consumed a fair bit of alcohol, he had nothing to do. So he was sitting in the front seat of the car with the driver, and there were 3 of us in the back seat in our black ties.
Yeah.
And we were about halfway up to Woodside, and there was an all-night radio station called 5KA. It's the only all-night station at that time.
Yeah.
And while we're going up there, there's a voice came over the radio saying, "Now we're calling the guard at Woodside. There's a car full of people returning to camp a little late than their..." And Brian Bergin, the great Brian Bergin, who knew all the media people, had gone into the radio station and gotten to put this message over.
Oh, that's so funny.
So as we approached the camp, Merv Evans said, "Just sit tight, everyone."
Yeah.
And the guard was out on the inside entrance. So Merv drove up to the outside entrance, wound down the window of Lieutenant Commander Strang's shoulder.
AKA sleepy and drunk.
Yeah. And just said, "Which way the officers' quarters, my man?" Snapped to his attention, "Yes, sir." So we drove in. We thought, thank God for that. We got away with that.
Yeah.
The only sad thing is, by the time we got back to our hut, it was Reveille time, and we had to turn out in Reveille in our black tie, and we, needless to say, we got pinged for that.
All right. So,
however, it was a good night.
Fantastic, a very good night. So just a couple of explanations for people. Reveille was what? The bugle early in the morning? Yep. And what time?
Or something like that.
6:30, right? So 99% of people were in their fatigues or whatever, and you guys were in your black tie. So
yes.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think it was rather obvious.
Right. Yeah, that's very good. Very good. And
Woodside.
Yeah.
I was going to say the rest of my other 3 years, 3 terms, was able to be done at just fortnightly camps and that sort of thing over the next couple of years.
Right. And that was all at Woodside?
Yep. No, mainly I joined the university regiment.
Okay.
And we used to have our commitments and meetings at the Torrens Parade Ground.
Okay. All right. Okay, great. And I have no idea. Do you know approximately what year national service was stopped in Australia?
No, I don't. I'd say it was probably about 4 or 5 years later that they dispensed with compulsory going into camp.
Right.
They still had night parades and that sort of thing, but no, I really don't remember when it cut out.
Yeah.
And one thing I was going to say that I mentioned that I got my Commonwealth Scholarship on my 1952 exam results.
Yeah.
And that was pretty good. And in 1953, I did my Leaving Honours, which was just an add-on. Yeah. And I managed to top the state in Leaving Honours Economics.
Oh, wow.
So I got a nice prize, and that was in 1953.
Oh, fantastic.
And the sad thing is that I've mentioned in our previous discussion, the early period at the university, I managed, having topped the state in 1953, failed Economics 1 the following year because I hadn't actually darkened the doorstep of the lectures very often. And so it meant that when I finished my course that was allegedly only for 3 years, I had one subject carried over. I had to finish Economics 3. So that was that was a bit of a come down.
So some people start slowly and end really well. You're sort of like the opposite, really, right?
Yes.
And for topping the state, what happened? Did you get your name in the photo in the newspaper, or did you get a medal, or?
Yeah, you get that and a certificate. And
yeah, excellent, excellent. Well, a belated congratulations for that.
Thank you.
However many years later it is. 70 years later, I guess, it was almost. All right.
And then 53, you know, a fairly solid university, really, from 54, 5, 6.
Yeah.
But involved going to InterVarsity footy in 1954 in Melbourne, and then 55 was Hobart, and 56 we hosted the university footy in Adelaide.
Right.
So that was all a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And I, you know, during those odd years, knew Jean, got to know Jean very well. We were both in a play, Romeo and Juliet, and a review called Get Happy, and you know, all sorts of good fun.
Yeah. And then, Dad, just a couple of clarifying questions. When you went to Sydney for the Jamboree, or you went to Tasmania for the football or whatever, would you go on the bus? Would you go on the train? Would you drive? Would you fly? How would you get there?
I think we went by train pretty well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Because flying was pretty expensive, I think.
Yeah. Sure. And then with Mom, and you mentioned being in like Romeo and Juliet. Was that university? Was that Footlights? Or
no, that was university. But Footlights is university as well. But this was the Dramatic Society.
Okay. And were you an actor? Were you playing the piano? Were you singing? All of the above?
Well, it was an actor. I was the County Paris in Romeo and Juliet, but we used to have a thing called Get Happy, that we had, you know, music and concert rather than a play, which was all good fun.
And Dad, I've seen a photo of you, which I'm going to find, of you like dressed up, maybe in tights or some sort of like not sequins, but
is that the one of me for the sword flying through?
Yeah, exactly. Is that from this time?
Yeah, that was the County Paris.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
from that. And that was Bobby Robertson. He was Tybalt, and I was after him.
All right, good. Well, if I was better prepared, I'd be able to pop that up on the screen right now and screen share it. But I'm not, so I won't. But anyway, all right, good. So
we're back to where I broke my leg then on the Varsity Oval in 57.
Yeah.
And that's where all sorts of things started to become complicated.
All right. Okay. So 1957. So let's say that we're now done with chapter 1. And now we're going to officially start chapter 2, which is 1957 to 1964. So it's
See how we go.
Yeah. And so 1957. Let's start it off. So we've already discussed this. You've got a badly broken leg, in 2 or 3 places.
Yeah.
What else is going on?
Well, I happened to get married by then. I think I mentioned last time that Jean and I found that we had Andrew on the way, and we needed to tie the knot, as was fair. Yeah. We were not popular terribly with either of our family, but there was a Dr. Ruth Mocatta, who was a great friend of Jean's mother. Yeah. And she came to the rescue for us and said, look, we've got an apartment at my place that's empty. You're very welcome to come and stay there if you wish.
Fantastic.
So Jean and I moved in there for a few months, and then we took a lease on a flat on South Terrace. Okay,
so where was Dr. Mocatta's place?
That was just in Hackney, not far from St. Peter's College.
Okay,
actually.
Okay, so you were there a few months.
And then you
leased. Yeah. So you were both at university at this stage, is that right?
Yeah.
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 Okay. All right.
Yeah. And one of the things I also remember for 1957 was I had a birthday, needless to say, and a bit before that I got a request to go down and have a driving test, because that was an renewal thing.
Yeah.
So I went down to the Port Adelaide police station, walked in on my crutches, and said to the fella, big cop sitting behind the desk, I've come for a driving test. And he looked at me and he looked over the top and he said, oh, we've got an automatic, have we? And I said, no, I haven't. And he said, what are you driving? I said, I've got a Volkswagen. He said, how do you drive it? I said, it's your left leg, it's in a plaster. I said, yeah, well, I put that up on the hump and I start the engine and I use the choke for revs. And I swap over with my right foot to the clutch until I'm moving, and then I change clutchless while I'm driving. And he said, oh, well, I'm not testing you. No way. And I said, hang on, I've come here for a driving test. Yeah. I've got a car here. Yeah. I've got to get home. Yeah. You've got to test me. Yeah. Oh, well, all right, get in. He sat in alongside me in the car. He said, once around the parade ground. Right. Just a little circle back again. Then he said, all right, go round again. So I went round again. Yeah. All right, go out on Port Road. We went down Port Road and he made me go up through the city and back. And we stopped outside and he said, all right, you can drive. And sign off.
Besides the obvious complication of trying to drive a car that requires you to operate a gear stick and 3 pedals with one leg completely, plastered up.
Yeah.
How really complicated was it? Was it something that you sort of just worked out how to do, or was it really, really difficult?
Oh, no, it wasn't bad. The main thing was the fact that you could change clutchless and not have to worry about using the clutch once you were rolling.
Right, yeah.
And then it was just your brake and steering.
Yeah. And no accidents to report, thank goodness.
No, not before or since in relation to that, no.
Good driving. Excellent. Yep. Very good. All right. So 1957, so Andrew...
And there we are, yeah. We're in South Terrace, in the apartment. Jean was still teaching, or effectively with the School of the Air.
Okay.
For the education department.
Yeah. Okay. So for people who don't know what School of the Air is, what was or is the School of the Air?
Oh, well, it's an education department broadcast to all the schools in South Australia, mainly, of course, intended for country and interstate even.
Right. So if you were on a property if you were a child on a property similar to where you went and were a jackaroo and helped out up near Broken Hill, and that family, for instance, had a few children, those kids would at home sit around the radio and listen to lessons from various teachers, including mom. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
And radio and or telephone.
Right.
And one of the side effects that it only just occurred to me that a little company formed by 3 blokes I knew at university that used to be called the Electronics Instrument and Lighting Company Proprietary Limited, till they got a shorter name. But they were radio engineers, among other things, and they got the contract eventually for converting basically all the education department system to an upgraded system.
Oh, wow.
And that gave them a terrific start.
Yeah.
And lately, they've just boomed on the stock exchange.
Right.
I used to have a monthly meeting with them to make sure they did their billing, because they were good at doing the job, but they weren't too good at doing the billing.
And you were their accountant, or you were their bookkeeper or something? Okay. So So when you say lately, you mean in 2020 or something? Or
What? Lately?
In terms
Now?
of their success, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, they've really started, and they're booming now. It's probably, they've been listed probably now for 15 years.
Yeah.
And it was fairly slow. But
Yeah.
gradually they've developed all sorts of other things. And their big one at the moment is prospecting equipment, which they sell heaps of in Africa, with people panning for gold and all that sort of thing.
And what's the company name now?
Well, the company's name now is Codan, C-O-D-A-N.
Yeah.
And I'm delighted that our family's got a reasonably significant holding in it.
Right.
Because their share price has gone from, you know, tuppence halfpenny to about $25 or something.
Yeah, fantastic.
And it's, I'm not sure those numbers, but they're doing extremely well.
They've done really well. And you were working with them when you were like 20 or something.
I used to make them come once a fortnight to come and do their billing. And one day Ian Wall, who was, they called him the prof, he was the main brains behind it. Okay. He said to me on Friday morning, "I'm sorry I won't be there, Bish, today. I've got a job. I've got an urgent call to go." And there's a very complicated road and railway crossing called the Emerson Crossing. And apparently that had been out of action for about 20 hours or something, and there was chaos in the traffic. Yeah. And he'd been called in to see if he could help sort it out. Yeah. Anyway, I said, I just don't think I'll make it back for 4 o'clock this afternoon where we report. And I said, I'll do your best. Anyway, he turned up at 4 o'clock and he said, oh, well, there we are. And I said, well, how'd you get on? He said, we've got a problem. And I said, hang on, how can we have a problem? You went down there. We said, the problem is I saw what the trouble was after about an hour. And he said, I was able to fix it in about an hour and a half. And the problem is, how much should we charge them? So I said, now, Ian, I think this is where you got your first lesson. Think of what would be a very complete return for the recovery of your time. And he said, oh, well, I guess that'd be $150. Yeah. And I said, well, try multiplying that by 10. Yeah. And he said, what? 1,500? I said, well, think of all those fellas and all the other people that have been there for 2 days doing nothing. You don't think they're doing that for nothing, do you? No, they'd be charging heaps. And I said, well, get in there, you fixed it. So he got his $1,500 for it.
Excellent, he would have been happy about that. It's a bit like that old story about the panel beater, right? Yeah. And you take it, right, with the doors bent, right? And you bring it in and say, yeah, I can fix that. And he brings out the rubber mallet and he hits it once and the door pops out perfectly. And he says, you know, that'll be $500. And the customer says, $500 for one hit? And said, yeah, but you got to know where to hit. Right? Yeah. So, same deal. All right. So so you have moved into South Terrace at this stage. Yeah. Andrew is born.
Yeah.
So by the time you got to South Terrace, Andrew was born.
Was he born or born? He's certainly there. I'm not sure what date it was. Anyway.
It doesn't matter. So your birthday.
What I do remember is I had my 21st birthday there.
Right. Okay.
And Jean took off for the night wisely because I had the buck show. Ah. And about a dozen blokes who came. And about 3 a.m., Jamie McKenzie came around and he said, where's Richie Gunn? And I said, I don't know. He's here somewhere. Yeah. And he said, well, I looked everywhere and I looked out in the park and I looked under the furniture and I can't see him. And I said, well, what do you want him for? He said, well, I promised to drive him home. And I said, oh, well, looks as though he's gone. Yeah. He said, oh, never mind. Anyway, Jamie and a few others stayed for breakfast. And about 9 o'clock, Jamie got on the phone. He was well known to Monty Gunn, Richie's mother. Yeah. And he rang up and he said, Jamie here, Mon, where's Richie? And she said, he's in bed. He said, well, get him up. I want to speak to him. And Molly said, all right, Jamie. So she went and shook Rich and put him on the phone. And Jamie said, Gunn, you're a bugger. I promised to take you home. How did you get home? And he said, you drove me home. And he had. He'd taken him home about 3 and came back afterwards and had absolutely no recall of it.
Those were the days.
Not recommended for any subsequent children or grandchildren.
Yes, we understand that.
Very, very careful.
Even young men in Adelaide have bad memories, Dad. That's all that happened. He just had a bad memory. That's why he couldn't remember. So,
yeah.
Anyway, all right. So so Andrew's birthday, obviously very different years, but Andrew is just about a month after your birthday, because you're September the 5th and Andrew is October the 5th. So, so about a month after all that, you're home in your new home of South Terrace with your new wife, your new child.
Yeah.
And what else is going on?
And I was at that stage, I working at Thomas Sarah Macklin briefly, and then eventually I transferred to what was Wiltshire Denton Turner and Co. and became KPMG.
Right.
So, and Jean had been doing School of the Air, which was good because she didn't have to, she was physically able to do that quite easily.
Yeah.
So she kept going with that, and we had a lot of fun.
Excellent. And what was Mum teaching at School of the Air?
I think mainly English and some routine subjects.
Right. Okay. So your first proper job, meaning professional job, as opposed to being a jackaroo or selling roses or working in the market and stuff. Yeah. What was that like? Was it a 40-hour week, a 35-hour week, a 60-hour week? How much?
Well, the first one was with Thomas Sarah Macklin. That was only 3 days a week or something like that.
Right.
Job.
Okay.
But when I started with Wiltshire Denton Turner and Co. It was probably 9 to 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also they paid overtime.
Right.
And because I was living just around the corner, really, they were in Weymouth Street and I was not far away.
Yeah.
I used to actually put in a lot of overtime.
Right. Right.
Because we needed some funds to live on. So that was all right. And Jean was earning reasonably well, and I was earning even better than I thought I would, because they don't pay a lot to trainee accountants.
Yeah. And do you remember how much money you were or Mum was making back then? Do you have any idea?
Really. No.
Yeah.
No. All I know is it wasn't any surplus.
Yeah. All right. So how long did you stay in South Terrace for?
We moved from South Terrace to Warwick Avenue, Hyde Park, in 1960. So we had 2 years, I think, in the flat in South Terrace. Okay.
And Jamie, my second brother, was born in 1960. So did you arrive at Warwick Avenue pregnant or with a second child?
I don't know. I don't remember, frankly.
Right. Okay.
I can work it out.
No big deal. And the flat on South Terrace, was that like a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and the house in Warwick Avenue was 2-bedroom or 3-bed? What was the?
Yeah, the flat was on one level. It was a 2-story building, but there was a block of 4. We had a bottom right-hand side. Yeah. And we just had a bedroom in the front, and then a living room and a kitchen and a washing machine out the back, sort of thing. Yeah.
And then when you went to Warwick Avenue, was that more of a house?
Warwick Avenue, that was more a full house with 3 bedrooms.
Right. Okay.
And Jean's mother was terrific, and she subsidised us by giving us a live-in girl to help.
Oh wow!
With Jean and the family, because Jean was still working.
Right. Okay.
And so we had this girl living with us as well.
Oh, fantastic.
So we moved into Warwick Avenue in 1960.
Yeah.
And we were there until 1964.
Yeah.
By which time I think just about the team was complete, wasn't
Well,
it?
it would have been because obviously I was born in 61, right?
Yeah.
And David was born on the 5th of January 1964. So
Yeah.
so he was almost certainly on the ground if he moved there in 64.
Yeah.
So
And
then 64. How old are you? You're 1936 to 64.
yeah.
So, what's that make you? 28? Is that right?
Yeah, that'd be right.
Yeah. So you're 28. Mum's 27, probably, right?
Yeah.
And you've got 4 kids.
Yep.
And your hands full.
Well, Jean's hands were fuller than mine. I just went off to work. But Warwick Avenue was a good place to live. We did very well, and with a live-in help, that really helped Jean.
Yeah.
Well, helped both of us, of course.
And did she stay for years, a number of years?
Oh yeah, probably. She was with us for 2 years, I think.
Okay. Yeah, it must have made a huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And then in 64, we moved to Sprod Avenue in Toorak Gardens.
Yeah.
And that caused a bit of confusion because the house had been originally owned by my father's brother, Bill.
Yeah.
And his widow stayed there for quite a long time. And then it was sold. And then it came on the market again. And I went and had a look at it and decided that I'd like to buy it.
Right.
So we then moved, this is in early 64.
Yeah.
We went to Sprod Avenue.
Yeah.
And we confused the neighbours because apart from the fact that the house used to be owned by Bill Bishop and then Rita Bishop and then John Bishop.
Yeah.
And across the road was Brian Bishop.
Yeah. No relation.
Not brother Brian, no relation.
Yeah.
But Brian Bishop and he had 3 kids about the same age as our 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
And used to go backwards and forwards between houses. And I remember Jean coming home one day and she said, I was just in the grocer's and I was in the shopping aisle. And I heard people, a couple behind me talking about, and they said, and then this other Bishop family came and they've got 3 children and the other had 2. And they go from one side of the street to the other. We don't know which one they live in. Jean stuck her head around the corner. Well, I can help you out if you want to know.
You've got all the dirt. So yeah, I remember. So the father was Brian Bishop. Do you remember the wife's name, the mother's name?
I will in a second.
Yeah. So there was Matthew
and
Bishop, Brian and Margaret. There was Matthew and Tim, and I think there was a girl there as well.
Yes.
I can't remember her name. Yeah. Okay. Sprod Avenue had a tennis court.
Yes. Yeah, that was good. And that got a fair bit of use. We had a tennis troupe that we effectively started there and carried on for many years with the various places we lived.
Yeah. And then we as kids went to Rose Park Primary School.
Yes.
From that house in Sprod Avenue.
Yep.
And anything else from that time, or are we going to wind it up with 1964?
Oh, well, we're probably close to winding it up. I'm not sure that I've got too much else noted down to say.
No, that's okay.
64. Yep. Sprod Avenue, and we stayed there for 6 years. So that we were there until 1964.
Yeah.
And sorry, to 1970.
Right. Okay.
And in 70 we moved. Well, we didn't move to Marlborough Street, but we bought Marlborough Street College Park.
Right. Okay.
And that opened up a whole new
okay.
lifestyle.
So let's stop chapter 2 now.
Yep.
At, either 1964 or 1970. We'll decide when we get to chapter 3. All right?
Yep.
Sound good?
Goodo.
Excellent.
Well,
anything else to
Nick.
throw in?
See you soon.
Okay, hang on one sec.